Hey guys, Will here, and today I am refining Mr. Sorbias' medieval building Blender tutorial that he made a couple years back. A lot of things he says in the video might sound a little confusing, so I'm here to refine that for you and make this a hopefully easier tutorial for you to follow. So the first thing we're going to double check is make sure that our 3D cursor is in the very center, this little red and white circle that we see in the middle of our cube right here. We want to make sure that's the very center of everything, because if we have it out like right here where it's not in line with this yellow dot that's in the middle of the cube, it can cause some issues for us, because if we add an object like a cube, it's going to spawn right where the red and white circle is, and then we don't want that because that complicates things, and we like to keep things in the center where we can see stuff the most. So what we're going to do to fix that, we're going to get rid of the cube. We're going to shift S, and we're going to go over the cursor to world origin, and that will reset our cursor to the very middle. And when we add a cube, it'll spawn right in the middle, and that's exactly what we want, because we want things to spawn in the middle, because it makes things easier for us. One thing to address really quick before we get started on using anything in terms of scaling and whatnot, you can easily access these tools on rotate, move, and transform and scale on this little menu right here. But Mr. Sorbias really recommends that you use the cursor, because when you use the cursor, you can get very accurate. Look at the difference in these scalings. If you press S, you can easily get like a really nice precision scale. Whereas if you were to use the scale tool, you get kind of like this pixel jumps between, however many pixels that is. And it looks really choppy and not smooth. I mean, we don't want that. So make sure you're selected on cursor. And whenever I say something like, okay, you're going to press S and then Z, and then you get like that scale right there, just make sure so that way it's not like confusing for anyone. So just make sure that you're on the 3D cursor, so whenever anything happens, you'll be ready. Okay, let's get started on our medieval building. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to press G, and then we're going to press Z, and that's going to move it and transform it up to where it's sitting just on top of our grid right here, little div right there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that it's on the x-axis, the red line going from left to right. That's how Mr. Sorbias does it in the video. If you feel comfortable doing the y-axis, feel free, but I'm going to do it on the x-axis because that's how he had it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do S, and then we're going to do X, and that's going to scale it on the x-axis, which is exactly what we want. We'll give it about right there, give a nice little rectangular shape. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to press Tab to go into our edit mode. Very simple, one button click to move from object to edit. Very useful. What we're going to do now is move your cursor right here to about towards the middle. We're going to press Control R, and we're going to get this yellow line that goes all the way around it. It's just like the connect tool from Maya. And what we're going to do is we're going to press Enter twice. The reason why it's twice is because when you press Enter once, it gives you the line. But if you move your mouse, it might like throw off the equilibrium line that cuts it directly in half. So we're going to Control Z that, and we're going to Control R like this, and then we're going to press Enter twice to make sure that line is staying in the middle and not moving anywhere. So then what we're going to do now is we're going to rotate this a little bit. We're going to press our button up here and select the face mode up here, and we're going to press Extrude by pressing E. And we're going to move up towards about the same size as the other two faces, and we're going to extrude again like so. So we have 4 rectangles stacked on top of one another, and we're going to select these two faces. We're going to extrude out like so, and this is your basis for your medieval tower. Okay, let's start adding some details to our medieval house. So the first thing we're going to do is, kind of facing this way, we're going to Control R, and we're going to get a line that goes across on the x-axis, and we're going to use our middle scroll mouse wheel to get 2 lines like so. So you move it once, you get 2 lines. We're going to press Enter twice like we did earlier, and we're going to press S and then Y, so we can get this nice little scale like this and get these nice little triangles in the middle. Or sorry, not triangles, squares. So with our face object mode, we are going to select this one, and we're going to extrude out like this, get a nice little, maybe a little bit bigger, like right there, give us a nice little side piece right here. We're going to go to our lines mode, select this line right here, bring this up, give it a nice little slanted roof like we want, like right here. And one thing you're going to notice is that we created these really odd diagonal lines, and we want a nice, like all the way around connection. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to our point mode. And we're going to select these 2 points right here, this one, and shift select the other one, and then we're going to press J. It gives us a new point right here in the middle between those two. So we're going to do the same over here. Again, you select this one, and then press J, and you've got this another one. So one thing he does point out and notice is that for some reason the lines don't exactly, like line up correctly with the way we want them to. So if we go back out here, we're going to select this one. We're going to shift select this one, press 1 on your numpad to the right of your keyboard, and we're going to zoom in. Doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but if you just zoom in a reasonable distance and line it up like so, give it a nice little that, and then we get go and scroll the middle wheel out, and there we go. We've got a nice little connection right here, and that is how we've created our first little terrace looking part. Okay, now let's add some nice details to give it just a little bit more. The first thing we're going to start off with is the top roof. So what we're going to do is we're going to select these 2 lines with our line mode. We're going to select these 4 like this. We're going to do what we did earlier, S and then Y. And then we're going to move them out like this till they're about touching the other faces over here. We get this little, maybe if we go a little bit further with SY, move it just to where it's like on the very edge, like that. So from a distance, you can barely tell. And then what we're going to do is we're going to Control R again to where we are down the middle like this. And we're going to make sure that's centered like that. Perfect. And then we're going to take this middle line right here, and we're just going to go ahead and move it up to your liking, however high you'd like to move it. I recommend somewhere around where it's where it creates like a 90 degrees at the top of the point right here. You can have it flat, you can have it higher. It's up to your liking. I kind of like it like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the bottom here. The reference image he had sort of had the medieval house sitting on top of like a smaller stone-ish kind of area. So we're going to select these bottom 4 lines, right? The bottom 4 faces right here like this. And then we're going to press Control and the Add button on the right-hand side of your keyboard, right near the number pad. So you're going to do that, and you'll get all of this. And now what you're going to do is you're going to press I, and you're going to go ahead and move this down a little bit so you get like this little thin line of faces right here. And using this inset faces, you should have a small tab that popped up like this. You open this up, and the depth, you're going to take this in right about there. So you get your nice little in depth. You can move that up if you want. So you can make that a little flatter. Maybe if we were to press 1, we can easily do it like this. And then like that. And there you go. Now you have your little smaller area. You can keep adjusting the size you want as much as you want. And that's those kinds of details. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start creating the support pillars for our medieval house. And the first thing we have to do is we're going to go into our object mode, and we are going to go to Add and Mesh Cube. So we have a brand new cube. And what we can do is we press 1 on our numpad, and then we press 8 a bunch so we can get that top view like that. Drag this cube out, look at the cube, press S, press S, and we're going to scale that down probably about like that. Make sure I can set that again. And we're going to drag this to the bottom left of our house like that. So if we take this, we can move this cube up about right there. Make sure that's looking pretty good on the edge like that. And we're going to press S and then Z, and we're going to drag this out like this to give it that extra little edge on the bottom right here. Maybe put that down just a little bit more like this. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add a new material for this to give it the wood texture we're looking for. So if you look over here on the bottom right, you should have a bunch of little tabs like this, like active tools and object constraints and stuff and modifiers. But we're looking for the materials tab right here, the circle or the ball with white and black on it. So if we click on this, we're going to press new, and we're just going to name this wood. So make sure everything is nice and tidy in terms of naming. And we're going to set the base color to about an orangish, and then bring the brightness down to about a dark gray. And we're going to do the same thing with viewport display. It should look like this when you first see it. So you're going to open up viewport display, go to color, set it to about an orange, and then a dark gray. Now we have this nice looking woodish texture, or a nice brown, so it identifies as these are the wood support beams that we're making. So what we can do is we're going to select it like this, and we're going to Shift D like we do in Maya, and that causes another copy of it. So we can move this guy over here, and now we have a complete duplicate of the same thing, same shape and size and everything, just different location. What we can also do is we can Shift D, press Enter, and we can rotate it by pressing R, and then we can press X, and then we can rotate it like this. And what we can do, oh, well, just look at that. I was putting one off. We can come down to our bottom left right here where it says angle, and just for neatness, set that to 90, so it's a perfect 90 degrees. And we can take this, we can move it to about right about here, like that. So we have like this nice little underarching support beam for our medieval house. And what he starts to do, he just starts to copy and paste a ton of these. So if you select these two, shift select, you shift D like this, sorry. You shift D, and you can move them on the x-axis to about right here, to where they're on the edge for this part. And then you can shift D of them again on the x-axis, put them over here on the edge over here. And then another thing we can do is we can take this one that we just made, and we can Shift D it like this, press Enter. We can rotate it on the x-axis, or sorry, the z-axis right here, and we can create another 90 degrees like this. And if we were to move it over here, we can have it showing up on the side. So bring it over a little bit like this, and then we can Shift D this one, bring it over here. So we have two on one on either side like this. Maybe line these up so like these side areas look pretty nice. So like that. Make sure that one looks nice as well. These are just very refined details that we can do. And then we can go into our edit mode. We can select these two faces right here on these two different objects, I believe. I can, sorry. All right, stay in object mode. You select these two and then go into edit mode. So that way both of these can be selected. So then we select the top faces. That's my fault, sorry. And we can take those two faces and we can bring these out over here. Now we have this really nice connection of all the things that we've worked on so far. And then what we can do is we go back to object mode. We can Shift D these onto the y-axis, or I'm sorry, the z-axis. And we can move this up to about right here for that middle line we made a while ago. And then we can Shift D it again on the z-axis, and bring it up about right here. And just create a bunch of like good-looking like support structures. And I'm going to stop this portion right here. I'm going to do a jump cut so the video isn't too long. This is just a general idea. When the jump cut happens, there's going to be a lot more support beams. So I'll show off each side really quick to show off what I added. So hopefully it doesn't take too ridiculously long for this video. Hey guys, so I decided to do a time lapse instead of a time jump. I just want to give you guys an idea to show what I was doing in the video. So it's basically just a lot of shifting and a lot of just extruding those faces to get those ideas that you want. And hopefully this will be a lot better instead of just a time jump. I feel like I might have been confusing when I said that I was just going to cut the video. So I did a time lapse here so you can kind of get an idea of what I was doing. And yeah, so just take a look at the time lapse that's currently happening on your screen, and I will see you in a couple of seconds. Okay, now let's create the roof of our medieval house. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take these four sides on the top, and we're going to Shift D, and then we're going to press Enter to let it go. And we now have our own little 2D flat part of our roof. But what we can do is Control C. Don't move it up. What we're going to do is we're going to press E, and we're just going to move it up probably about right there to give it a good little thickness for what a roof would be. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select these 4 newly created faces on either side. So 2 here for 4. And we're going to go press 1 on the numpad to give us this side view, perfect side view. And we're going to press scale, or for S, and then we'll press S, and then we're going to press X to move it on the X axis like so. So we'll have even spacing for either side to give it that, you know, nice and equal looking look that we want. So we're going to go ahead and do that like that. And we now have these little lips that go over the side of the top. And if we press 5 on the numpad, we get out of that, that view. And what we can do now is we take these 4 sides, same process. We're going to press 1 on the numpad, and we're going to press 6 on the numpad about 4 or 5 times. 6 times, my bad. Press 6 times, so that way you get this nice straight view like this. And then we're going to scale, and we're going to scale it on the y-axis like this. And then we're going to move this down. You see how we have like this really open area right here? We don't want that. So we're going to pull this down until that disappears like that. So that should get rid of that gap that's between our main building and the top of the roof. So now what we're going to do is we're going to escape this view again. And we're going to go up here and we're going to select the edge mode. And we're going to select these 4 edges in a very similar process, like so. And we're going to go press 1 again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then go into this. And we're going to move this up, and we're going to press scale and Y, and we're going to move it in probably about right there. And that is how we make a very simplistic roof for our medieval house. One thing he does do in the video, which I recommend you do as well, is he deletes these because you can barely see these from a different angle, especially if you're viewing your house from up here, you're not going to be able to see them. So just go ahead and delete those. Gives us better processing, and you know, you don't need any extra stuff that may not be seen or given much detail. So yeah, that's how you create the roof portion of our medieval house. So in addition to the top roof right here, we're also going to make a small side roof for our little side area right here. And how we're going to do that is we're going to do exactly what we did with the other roof, where we're going to select these 2, shift select, and we're going to press shift D and then enter. So that way we have our little 2D plane right here now. And what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to use a tool called active elements. So if you notice that our pivot point is right here in the very middle because we have both these selected, and that's how we usually have it. But I want to have the scaling go in just these 3 areas where there's actually space, not into the house. And what we can do is we can actually set something called active elements. So if you come up here to the tab, should be right next to a tab that says global. Hopefully it says global. There's a point called active element. You select that. And what we're going to do is if you come up to the top left, you can shift select the vertex selection or the point selection. What we're going to do is we're going to select both these faces, and what active element does is that it puts your pivot point at the last thing you selected. So if I was like this, it comes here, goes there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these 2 faces right here, and we're going to double click on this point right here. So 1, 2, and now we have our pivot point set here. So if we were to press S, we can now scale all 3 of these sides and none of the other sides. It works like wonders for us to create an easy roof. And if we look at the side, we can press E for extrude, and there you go. Very simple, very easy way to create a roof. One thing extra we can maybe do is we select our line mode. We can take these 2 lines right here, maybe go into the house by dragging it like so. Maybe we can press 1 to make sure that the roof doesn't look slanted like this. Drag it up like that, and there we go. Easy way to create a little side roof for the side piece. All right, I'm pretty tired of staring at all this gray, and I'm pretty sure you guys are too. So let's go ahead and start adding some good colors to this. So let's go ahead and select our roof here, and making sure you're in face mode. You select a face, and you're going to press L to select the entire part, and then we're going to shift select one of the faces on the other roof, and then we're going to press L again because it selects the entire object. And if you go up here to your materials tab, we're going to do, first thing, we need to add a material for everything so we don't accidentally end up making this entire thing a random color. Because if we assign a random material, And we may have these selected, but if we select the color, it's going to change the entire thing, and we don't want that. So Control Z in here, we're going to assign a new material. We're going to call this our walls, which is going to be the gray, and then we're going to create a new material right here, new material, and we're going to call this roof. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do base color about a reddish, you know, some nice little color that makes it pop. And if you notice that we've changed the color to red, but it's still not applying, that's because if you scroll back up here, we have the roof. We just have to press assign to the selection. So now look at that. Look at that. Nice red roof gives it a nice little pop to the detail. And then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to add a bit of a darker stone-ish texture to our bottom part right here. So if you select these four faces right here and then press Control and the plus button, you'll select just this bottom area right here. We're going to go ahead and create a new material again. We'll call this stone bottom, and we'll give this like a kind of, actually we don't even have to change the color. We can just give it like a nice dark gray, about like that. Set the color to dark gray again, about right there, looks pretty good. And then we come, oops, sorry, scrolled up while it was still selecting. All right, and we come back up here and then assign, and look at that. Now we have some nice looking textures. You got your main walls for your main house. You got the stone foundation for the bottom, and you got like a nice red plaster for your roofs. Now, one thing that Mr. Sorbias does in his medieval house tutorial is that he doesn't like the thickness of these wood planks that go across for our support beams. And if you want to do this as well, feel free to do so. If you feel like you like how they look, then maybe skip this part. But to easily fix the how big these panels are, or these planks, you easily select the planks that are in question that might be too big, like so. And if you were to go back into your edit mode, you press A, so all of them are selected. And if you were to hold down Alt and S, they will scale in their respective areas, so you don't have to worry about them scaling in, because if you were to press S, they could do that, and we don't want that because then that ruins the alignment. So make sure to hold down Alt and then S, and you get that scaling like this. It creates even scaling, and it keeps them in the same area. So you can scale them down to like right there, and then say you scale them on the Z-axis, and then we can scale them up like this, maybe about right there. That's long enough, and then you go back to our edit mode, and we can bring these down like that. That's a really easy and simple way to get thinner beams for your medieval house if you wish to do so. Again, if you like the thickness that they already are, feel free to keep them like that, but at the same time, that is how you can adjust the size of some of these planks. I personally am just going to go ahead and shrink all of these, but again, it's your will, believe what you want to do, and I'll see you for this next part. All right, so here comes the fun part. We're going to work on the windows for our medieval house. So what we're going to do first is Mr. Sorbias usually selects this one right here, and I'm going to do the same. So we're going to Shift D and Enter. So now we have this. Bring this over here, and we can scale it. The first thing we're going to do before we make anything of the windows, we're going to make a new material because he adds like a dark wood for the wood on this. So what we're going to do is we are going to scale this really quick. We are going to create a new material in our materials tab, call it new. We'll call this dark wood, like so. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did with the wood a long time ago, but we're going to make it a lot darker, more so in the, maybe not that dark, about right there. That looks good. Same thing in the color for the viewport display, nice orange, and then a nice grayish mixture. And then if we go to press tab, press A to select everything, and then we're going to assign. And now we have a brand new, darker for the window. You can easily tell the difference between the two colors right here. So with that color set, we can easily just copy paste this same thing, and the entire window will have the same color with no complications. So what we can do now is we can take this, make sure the spacing between these two is good. Shift D this, move it over like that. Take these two guys like that, and move this guy over just a bit more like that. We can take this guy, Shift E, rotate on the y-axis 90 degrees like that. And then we can move him over and up like this. Maybe increase his size like that. That looks good. And then move him forward so he's sitting on top of these two. Move over a little bit that way, so that way it's centered. Shift D, move this guy down like that. Maybe move these guys over so it's even on either side. That looks really, really good. This is all just completely subjective to your own liking about like how thin do you want these objects to be, you know, and such. So what we can do is we can Shift D this guy, move him over, and then we can rotate him 90 degrees. Oops, my bad. Yeah. Okay, we got this guy. Rotate y-axis 90 degrees like that. And then we can scale it down like this. Get that really thin looking middle area so we can create the individual panes that we want. Move them in like that, and then move them down. We can create like a three pane area. So Shift D again, move it up to where it's about even. So for the 3 panes, be like right there. That looks good. Maybe a little bit like that. That looks 10 times better. Okay. Then we can Shift D this guy, rotate y-axis another 90 degrees like that. And then we can move him down just like that. We have our window pane like that, or window frame. And for the window pane, you know, the blue part, we can actually Shift D this top part like that, move him to the middle, make him extremely thin like that. That looks good. Move him back to where he's behind everything, like right there. Make sure he fits in the parameters like so. And then we're going to extrude him like that, or scale like that. And then what we can do is we can actually assign another new material. So new material, we'll name this window pane like that. And then we can set this to like a really nice light blue-ish, like sky blue. Make sure the viewport color is set like that. And we can go into tab, make sure that's all selected like that. And we can do assign. And look at that. You got a window. Looks great. Oh, one thing, since we controlled these two that's in the same pane, you might see a little bit of like fuzziness right here. Just go ahead and bring this guy forward, because that intersection was on the exact same, so they were intersecting with each other, and that doesn't look good, so we don't want that. So now what we can do is if we select all of these guys right here, we can easily, every single one that you just created for this window, so the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 frame, and then the 1 window pane, what we can do is we can Control J, and that turns this entire thing into one object. And that'll be really helpful. So instead of having to constantly like click on all the items and then select them all, you can just easily Control J to group them together so it's one single window. And then you can easily just Shift D, and you can move this guy down to about right here, and then this guy down to about right here. And you can select all 3 of these, Shift D, move them up 1 level. There you go. Then you can shift all of these guys, all 6, Shift D, and you can rotate, I believe, on the Z-axis, 180 degrees, like that. And then we can move them over to the other side, right about right there. And look at that. We have 12 windows on our medieval house, all textured in their base colors. And that's a great start for our windows for our medieval house. All right, to create some nice detail for our medieval house, we're going to create an entirely new window for our medieval house. One thing he does do to, you know, get rid of some of the linearity in our house is he actually deletes this window right here and this window right here, so the back 2 windows, and he actually likes to move these 4 windows to where they are in the gaps of the windows on the bottom. So it gives it like a nice little, like, not so linear, like one room stacked on another kind of idea. But what we're going to do now is we're going to create a curved window. It's going to be very nice. So if you'll notice right here that my 3D cursor is, you know, not where it used to be. We'll just say where it was. Should have stayed down here. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to use this. So if you come up here to where it says cursor, I want you to go into your side mode like this. You can hold down Alt. If you're in this mode like this, like normal, you can just hold down Alt and then drag with your middle mouse like this, and you can get this mode. So what we're going to do is, you can see our cursors right here. We're going to click like this, and it's going to perfectly align our 3D cursor. So if you notice that these lines are straight, the little black lines, these lines are straight, these lines are straight, they're all straight every single angle we look at, and we need that, because if that orientation is messed up, it could definitely hurt how our windows look. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to go back, we're in object mode. Okay, oops, I just did the one stupid thing. Okay, click that. Okay, now I'm going to get off of cursor mode. Sorry, make sure you're off of cursor mode so you don't click off of the cursor selection like I just did. So select the same pillar right here. We're going to Shift D that, and then we're going to bring it over over here. Now in his video, he does a bit of a jump cut, and he has what he did was he somehow selected this one and copy pasted it. But if we copy paste from this one, it's a part of this object. So I'm going to go ahead and just do it my way. So if we take this, we're just going to give it its own new material. And what we can easily do is, if we added, so this is, let's call this dark wood 2, like so. We can easily come to our base color, and we can use this little dropper tool, and we just easily select that same color twice right here, like that. And then we can go into tab, edit, object mode, and then we can assign that, and there we go. Now they're the same color. Now we don't have to worry about there being any difference in this color being darker and this color being brighter. So in our object mode, we're just going to go ahead and actually, no, we're going to go into our edit mode for this. And with our edit mode, we are going to use a very, 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 very interesting tool called spin, which allows us to give us this shape that we want. So let's go ahead and shape this down. Like if we go back to this mode really quick, we can take this over here, and just so we're on the sense of equality, we can easily shape this to where it's like the same size in terms of the frame, about right there. If we moved it over, it's about roughly the same size. Okay, perfect. What you want to do is you're going to take this guy and you're going to line him up with the 3D cursor about like this. And what we can do is we're going to select this top face right here. Maybe tuck this in. Oops, select the full thing. Move this in. We're going to take this face right here, and we are going to select the spin tool right here. Now this is getting a little complicated because he has an easy tool in his video. His tool didn't mess up like this. So what we're going to do is this should pop up for your spin tool. So we're going to press this second button right here, and it's going to create this really weird flap. We're going to fix that. So if you come here to your axis right down here in this little drop-down menu, set your Y to 1 and set the Z to 0 because it was for some reason on the Z axis. Now your angle determines how big of the rotation is being spun. And right now it's 360, and that looks very, very weird. So we're going to set this to 90. And then after that's done, you should have like a dark gray circle right here. Go ahead and drag this the opposite direction like that. And look at that. Very nice, very curved. Maybe if you want to go perfect, you could set it to 90. Oh, my bad. I just undid everything I did. So yeah, here you go. So Y1, Z0. Set the angle to -90, like that. Perfect. That was what I messed up. It was -90, not 90. You can add more steps if you want to, give it more details, or even less details if you want. Maybe get like a really interesting like curved but straight design. But I'm gonna go ahead and keep the nice looking 9, give it that nice curvature. So we're done with that. What we can do is go back to our object mode, like so. And we can easily select this, Shift D like that. And we can rotate it, not like that. I have no idea what's happening like that. Okay, there we go. Set that to 180, like so. Move this over like that. And in, see, line it up like that. Okay, and look at that. We have a really nice frame. We could take these two like this, move it in, What else we can do? We can take, let's see, what else can we do? We take this frame right here, shifty this. I know it's kind of drastic because it's the biggest frame, but we can just easily shrink that down like that. Perfect. Move this over like this, like that. Give it a nice little frame like so. Maybe move it over a little bit more like that. There we go. That looks good. We can actually take all these. Let's go and move it up just a little bit so it's like more so centered in this quadrant right here. So we'll do the same process. Make a new material, dark wood. Oops, caps lock. Dark wood like that. Base color, dropper, same color. Dropper, same color. Go into your edit mode, like so, and then assign that new material. So now it's all dark, perfect. And now what we can do is we can actually take this guy right here, and we can do what we did with our other windows. So set this 90. Then we can make this extremely thin, like that. Bring this over and up, like that. Maybe move them in, like that, so we can get the inner window frames. And then we can take this guy, rotate him 90 degrees, like that. Thin and in. And then we can move it over like that, and then shifty, and then move him down. Look at that. Then we can take these two guys, maybe move it back just a little bit more like that. Take this guy again, shifty, make him flat like that. And then for this one, what we can do, we can use what we did a while ago with our Control R, which creates the those of the lines. Because if this is our windowsill or our window pane for our curved window, you can obviously already see the issue that's about to occur is that it's square and we have a curved window. So we have this really weird, thing sticking out. So what we can do is we can take this, first off, let's make sure that the shape of the window is, within the parameters of our window here. So about right there, that looks good. So what we can do with this selected, we can Control R like we did earlier with our object, like this. Control R like that, and then we can use our edge mode, select these two edges right here, and then we can bring them down like that. Actually, what we can do, going Control Z, that, my bad. We can Control R like this, and we're going to do it 3 times like that. There we go. And what we can do now is we can take these 2 edges, and then we can bring these down, like probably about right there. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's about good. Maybe down just a bit more like that. Perfect. So now what we can do is we can select all this, move it in like that, and then we can assign a new material for this guy, create a new, we'll call this curved window pane. Sorry about that. Curved window pane. We can do the same thing we did with the dropper. Color, dropper, get that window. Oh, sorry, my bad. So the tab's closed on me. And then same thing here for the base color, dropper, same window color, and then we can assign. There we go. Sorry about that. I was a little worried. I thought that these little lines right here in the middle were like painted incorrectly. Turns out I was just still in edit mode. So if I go to object mode, there you go. Look at that. It's all completely different. We got a nice looking curved window for our house. And then look what we do, like we did with these windows. We can take these guys, every single one that we did, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 window panels, or sorry, window frame, and then the actual pane itself. We can Control J to create its own item again. Shift D like that. Maybe bring these down right here like this. Shift D both of these. Bring them over here to the other side. Rotate on the z-axis, 90 degrees. No, 180 degrees, my bad. Like so. Bring them in. There you go. You got curved windows, you got straight windows, and there's still plenty more windows to go around. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a third window type really quickly here that he puts right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to Shift D this, and then we're going to move it over, scale it down like that, scale it in like this, and then we're going to Shift D again, move this over to where it's kind of thin like that, thinner than we have on this window right here. Take this guy, and then we're going to Shift, rotate about 90 degrees, or not about 90 degrees exactly. Move this guy up like right here. We'll scale him like this, maybe not that much, about right there, maybe about right here, and then in more, a little bit more like that. Perfect. Move this over, and if we want to go for perfection, we can do this, but that looks about good. So we can take this guy, Shift D down right here, take this guy, Shift D again, rotate 90 degrees. I apologize if I am going fast. Again, this is all up to you. You can make your own kind of window types if you feel creative, but this is just the general gist of what he worked on and what I'm showing you. So take this guy, move him right here. Maybe scale him back a little bit so he's in. Shift D, move this guy up right here. Perfect. Shift D this guy, move him in to where he becomes a pane. Like that and like this. Perfect. Maybe make that thinner so it's easier. Move it in like that. Perfect. Go up back to your materials tab, assign a material, new, and we can call this small window pane like that. Take your base color. Now, one thing I want to mention, you don't have to use the dropper. I'm just doing the dropper to make it all simple because, you know, the colors look nice. Feel free to do whatever colors you want. If you want to make this brighter or whatnot, you do feel free to do what you want. Then you can go into your tab, select everything in the edit mode, and then assign, and there you go. You've got a small little window. We can take all these objects again, like we did with the other two windows, select every single one that's currently in this area, and then select J, or Control J, sorry. So now that's all one window by itself. And we can Shift D this window, move it over to the other side like this, rotate it 90 degrees, or 180 degrees, again, sorry. 180 degrees, move it in about right there. And now you've got these nice little side windows on this side room right here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some really nice details with our supports on our medieval house. And how we're going to do this is we're going to take this guy right here and we're going to Shift D. Actually, what we can do is we can Shift D for both of these and we can create the same equal for every side, for both sides right here. So what we can do is we're going to Shift D these guys. We're going to move them over for our first one right here. And we can scale these guys down and then move them up like this, to where they're nice and nestled. The top is nice and nestled up there. And then we're just gonna Shift D a bunch of times and we get these nice little segments to get like nice little details on the sides. And it's gonna start looking really, really good. So just keep Shift D'ing, moving the next segment like this. Shift D, move it down like that. Shift D, move it up like that. Bam, look at that. Nice segments. And then maybe what we can do, because we see like this little edge right here, we don't want that. We can take all these guys like this. Oops, that's the entire house. These 5 guys like this, move it in ever so slightly like that. Perfect. And then we can take these guys over here who don't have the same issue. Okay, we can let that go. Okay, so yeah, that is the beginning of the frames in the middle. Okay, so we've created these really nice looking pillars, but we can easily add more to make them look more detailed. So what we're going to do is we're going to select, we can do all 10 at the same time. So we can do both sides at the exact same time. So what we're going to do here is we're going to select all 10, and then we are going to Shift D, so that way all of them has just created their own copies. There's 10 right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to rotate. But if we rotate it, it's going to rotate in a really weird way. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here, back where we had active element, and we're going to set it to individual origins. And that will allow every object to rotate in their own area. So if we do that, let's say, that's a good angle, see about 30. Yeah, that's a good angle. And then we can do scale, and we can scale these guys down like that. And we can move these guys up like this. That looks good. I like that. Do the same thing that you did for the possibility of them sticking out. Go and move in just a bit so that isn't affected. See, are these guys good? Nope. Okay, let's go and fix these guys as well. So select all 5 of those. Move them in just a tad, like so. Perfect. Now what we can do is we can select the 10 the 10 ones that we just created like this. We can rotate them again, like such. We can Shift D. We can rotate on, I believe, the y-axis the other way, like so. And if we set it to -60, because if we set it to 30, we set the angle going to, like, so we set this angle, this going this way, to 30. So we set it to -60 because that's 90. That's perfect because we can do that. And maybe put that out just a bit more so it's where it's even. Like if I want to be perfect, I can zoom in right here and see how much this lines up, like right there. Look at that. We got some really nice, nice looking V's for all of our pillars and supports. And it just really makes, really pops in detail. It makes it look a lot nicer for our medieval house. Okay, so another thing that he does is that he adds some more details to this house to give it more of a pop in terms of like supports and detail. So what we can do here is we're going to take this guy right here. Actually, let's go ahead and do both of them again. Sorry, wrong one. That one and this one, the ones that are right across from each other. Go ahead and Shift D these, rotate 90 degrees, like so. We're going to scale them a little bit down and move them like this to about right there. And then if we take our individuals, we can scale it back just a bit so it's behind the ones in front of it, like that. And then what we can do, so we take these guys, Shift D again, we rotate them like this. Perfect. We can do that. And then we can bring these down like this. Maybe we scale them up just a bit more like that. Perfect. Again, just being, this is all up to you, but this is what he does in the video, and I'm just copying him so I can show you what he did for his technique. And then we can rotate this, rotate this the other way towards across like that. And then we can move this over here, maybe a bit more angled like that. And there you go. So we got these nice little more supports in the areas where there isn't a window. So it gives it more detail without detracting from anything else that we've created previously in this assignment. And now what else we can do is we can actually come over here to this area. We can create some supports, because something like this, obviously in a house, the structure would probably crumble because it's all being held up. So what we can do here is we can create some supports down here by simply shift clicking these two, Shift D'ing, and then rotating upwards to a degree of your choice, maybe about, what's a good degrees? All right, there, that looks good. We can just make sure that they're the correct length. Maybe we can just move them in like that. And there you go. We got these nice little support beams that support the quote unquote weight of your 3D model. Maybe you can scale them down a little bit so they tuck inside of the ones right here. And that is a easy way to add some more details to your medieval house. One thing I did want to mention is when I was working on the support part for earlier, add these two right here for the full support. So what you can easily do is you just take these two guys right here, you shift D, pull them down, and then rotate rotate 90 degrees, and then you can move them in like that. Just want to point that out because I missed that, and I don't want you guys to accidentally miss something on my fault. So yeah, be sure to add these two guys as well. But again, this is all you're doing. So whatever you want to do for your house, if you want to make these supports like crazier and cooler looking, then by all means do so. But that is the general base for this. All right. Now, what's a proper house without an outdoor space? So we're going to create a nice little balcony for a medieval house because medieval houses had this really cool balcony area for some of their houses. So what we can do for that is we're going to take these two guys right back here, and we're going to go into our edit mode and make sure you select their faces, that one and this one. We can drag these guys down. Make sure you recommended you line it up pretty well with this one over here, because what we're going to do now is we're going to take the go back into our object mode, select these two guys, the ones that are on the very bottom, go back into your edit mode, select that face and then drag them out, and there you go. They meet each other. Nice little underarching support area, but we're not done yet. We can take this guy right here, we can shift D, and we can bring him out right here for a extra space. And then this is the fun part right here. We can easily shift D this, and then we can move this over, and we can create some really cool and easy looking planks just by scaling this down to about, like, let's say about right there. So that's maybe a bit more. So see how thin that looks to be like a plank, maybe just a bit more like that. We could bring this up like so, and then we're just going to shift D this a ton of times and put a reasonable gap in between your wood planks, maybe about like just a bit more like that. That looks good. And we can shift D a bunch of times, keep going like that. Sorry. Okay, let me shift D all these guys, shift D, then move them over, and just keep copy pasting until you have a full deck. And actually, these little difference in sizes can be even more perfect because, you know, we can't. I mean, this is a medieval house. You know, we're not going for absolute perfection. We're just going for a really nice looking, like, would-be patio area or like balcony, outdoor, like want to enjoy the fresh winds kind of thing. So yeah, that is the start to our balcony area. All right, now to ensure the safety of all of our guests at our balcony area, we're going to add a guardrail. So one thing we can easily do for that is we can select every single one of these guys that we use for this, and we can shift D like so. We can rotate 90 degrees like that. Perfect. Perfectly straight. And we can scale down about right there. That looks good. Good height. Move that up about right there. Then we can move this over like that. Look at that. Looks perfect. Maybe we can move it over just a little bit, or we can just take one individual and space it like that, and then take this guy, space it like that. Perfect. So we can take all these guys that we just created. We can shift D these guys. We can rotate them like this. Oh, that's right. I still had that. We can turn active element on. We can turn like that. Perfect 90 degrees. And then what we can do is we can move this over like right here. Perfect. And maybe take these guys like this. Shift D, 4 over like that. Maybe we just have one just inside like so. Perfect. Then one thing we're going to do is we're actually going to create a little bit of this staircase that goes down so people can actually get into this luscious house that you've been creating over the last 50 minutes. So what we can do now is we can take all these guys over here, shift select all of them, shift D, move them all over to the other side, And what Mr. Sorbias does in his video is he actually takes these three right here, deletes them like that. And then the last thing we need to do for our rail area or our guardrail, we need to add a top part. You know how every kind of ones of these has like those upper part. So what we can do is we can take this guy right here, Shift D, and we can move him down, maybe make him a bit thinner or a bit flatter, however you choose. Make it look nice, like that. Move him, make sure he's sitting on top, maybe a bit higher, like so. That looks pretty good. Maybe it can go a bit higher, like that. That looks good. Okay, so you can take this, Shift D, like that, scale him down like this, rotate 90, like so. Move him over on this side to where he's on these guys' rails, about right there. Scale that out like so. Beautiful. Maybe for this side specifically, actually what we can do is if we select all these guys, this is just my personal, put them more on top of this pillar right here, so we can move all these guys out like that. That looks 10 times better. Oh yeah, I like how that looks. Perfect. Okay, so make sure that's nestled in, and then we can Shift D him, bring him over here, along with these guys over here. And then what we can do is we can actually scale this guy down right here, about right there. We can move it this way, a bit smaller, maybe a tad like that. Okay, move in like that, Shift D, and then move over right here. And look at that. You got a guardrail. Perfect height. Oh, that's sticking out. That's not good. We don't want that. We don't want it to stick out. Perfect. Okay, so that's the general gist. Getting all these guys lined up, all these guys, creating a little gap right here, and you've got your guardrail, and the next part we'll work on is the stair area for right here. Okay, so one thing we're going to do really quick before we get to our staircase, we are going to add some more support for our balcony. This is something that Mr. Sorbias does in his video. So if you're in your object mode, you go to these two pillars right here at the very end for your balcony. And we're going to go into our edit mode by pressing tab. Make sure these two bottom faces are selected. And you're just going to move them down to about right there. Looks good. Maybe a little bit higher like that. One thing we want to do is we're going to make sure this is set to individual origins, because when we press extrude like that, we can scale, and they scale on their own terms. So instead of them scaling, in a really weird way, they can scale evenly. And then what we can do is we can extrude again, and now we have these nice blocky supports for the bottom of our medieval house. And then a cool thing we can do is we control plus twice. So we do control add twice. We select the cubes that we just created, and we can go over to our colors over here, and we can add a new material. And a really, really cool thing we can do is we can actually press this browse material button, and we can look at all of our other materials that we've made. Now, I was messing around behind the scenes, so you may not have as many materials as I have right here, but you should find the material that we named stone bottom right here. And if you assign, you can get these. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Don't know why that didn't apply. Could you? Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, there we go. So now we have these nice little stone areas down here for more support for our overall house, and more specifically for the balcony. All right, let's start adding some really good details to our staircase to make it look 10 times better. So what we can do is we can take this guy over here on the other hand side of our balcony. We can take all these guys with us, all of these right here. We can Shift D, and then we can take them all over here to add some detail. And what we can do is we can actually delete this guy, and then we can scale this guy down to about right there and move this over. And then what we can do is we can actually Shift D and move this guy down like that. Perfect. We can also move him over maybe just a bit more on this axis, Shift D. We can select these two, Shift D like that, rotate 90 degrees perfectly, scale them down to about right there. That looks good. Just for perfection, we're going to go into our, hopefully go into our, there we go. Go in this mode, move him over about right there. Yeah, he needs to be longer. So scale him out just a bit more, like that. Perfect. And then we could take a couple of these guys, let's say about 4, maybe 5, Shift D, then bring them over right here. Perfect. Oh, not yet. There we go. Now it looks pretty good. Maybe move him in just a bit. There we go. Now we have a nice little edge for our staircase. So now what we can do is we can add like a guardrail right here, and we can do that by Shift D, this guy right here. We move him over, and maybe make sure he's as long as the staircase, like maybe like that. Thin it out a little bit, rotate it to where it's about the same angle, and maybe we can make him a bit bigger. And what we can do is we move him down like so, maybe a bit bigger like this. We'll adjust the size in a second so it's not sticking out over here in the top right, like that. And then we can take, if we go to our edit mode, we can take this face, we can move it maybe about right there. So now it's a really nice support on the side. So we can go back into our object mode, Shift D, move over like that. And then another cool thing we could do is we could take this, Shift D again, bring it up right here, and we can create some nice side supports. So what we can do here, we just take this end guy right here, Shift D, maybe make him thin like there, and then we can watch the side view. We can actually what we can do the array like we did last time with our stairs. We can go back up to our wrench, go to add modifier array, and we can offset him about maybe 5, and then down by 0.3, and then we can create copies. Maybe a bit more. You might have to tweak it the z-axis a little bit so you can find that sweet spot for how it goes, and then create more pillars, and then we can adjust these by moving them up, and voila, you've got all of your supports for your staircase to look really, really nice. And then a last thing we can do to create some strong structural support for our staircase, we're actually going to select these guys again right here. We're going to Shift D these guys so we have copies of them. And we're just going to support the bottom of our staircase. So like we take this guy right here, we can take this, go to our edit mode, do that, bring this down, maybe look at this from the top side view, just so we can see what it looks like. And then we can adjust it like this, put that right there. And then we can go back here, take this, put it right there. And now it's got more support for the house. What we can do is we can take this guy right here. We can Shift D him, and we can move this over this way. Maybe add for the second support like that to give it much more support on the staircase. Maybe what we can do is we could Shift D him again, move him over about right here, go to our edit mode, take this, move it down, maybe about right there, just to give those staircases the nice support they deserve. If you feel like these stones should be longer on the bottom, then feel free to select them and do so. So maybe so as they line up with our staircase right here on this one line right here. And we can actually do the same here for the actual stone base itself. Select these 4 guys right here, and then we can just move them down just a bit like that. And that looks a lot better because it looks like all the supports are the same length. So feel free to mess around. You can add more, you can add less if you want, but this is the general idea you can do for your staircase, and that is a really nice looking staircase with supports and detail. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to add some extra support and some extra windows to our medieval house. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take these guys that we've created a while back, specifically these guys right here, this one and this one, nope, that one, and this one, the ones that are right across. We're going to Shift D these guys. We're going to move them down to here. This is what he does in his video. He maybe scales them out a little bit, or you can rotate them like that, give them more support like that. That actually looks pretty good. So you Shift D again, move these guys over, rotate like that. Perfect. So that we got some good support. And then another thing we can do is we can take this guy, Shift D, rotate him inwards 90 degrees like that. We can move him over, make sure that's not overlapping in a really weird way, like so. And I actually have no idea what this guy is from, so I'm going to go ahead and delete you. I have no idea where you came from. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled program. We're going to take this guy, move him into our pillar like so, and then we can Shift D, move the other guy over, rotate the other direction like that. Maybe that's a bit too angled, like about there. And then we can move him into the pillar, about that. Perfect. Now we got these nice side supports for our staircase, specifically the supports of the staircase. Maybe make sure that those maybe thin these out a little bit. Make sure that they're not bleeding out on the sides, so or else they'll look a little awkward. That looks good. That looks good. This one needs to be thinned a little bit, like so. Same with this one, like that. Maybe move them over like that. Same with this one. Move it over. Little details that gives it just that much more detail. Okay, so what we can do now is he actually copies these support pillars. We're actually going to take all four. So Shift select these three, these two right here, and then Shift select the exact same ones on the other side. So you should have all four of these V-shaped pillars on either side. You're going to Shift D, move all these guys down one right here. So you create an entire new section like that. And what he does is he takes the window right here and he does like a really cool, like stretch it out. And now you've got like these really big windows. And I believe he had it to where it was like this, where one is over here. He Shift D's that, moves it over here. Let me just double check to make sure that's exact. Oh no, he has them in all three, excuse me. So like this, perfect. So you can Shift D all of these, move them over here to the other side. Get your rotate tool out, rotate 180 like that, and then you move them in to the wall like that. Like that. Now you've got windows on either side. And then another thing we could do is we could take this guy, we can Shift D him, and we can move him, and we're going to add a window right here. So if we rotate this 90 degrees, maybe look at it like this. Oops, sorry. Look at it like that. Perfect. Maybe center it a little bit more like that. Perfect. And then we can move them in to the building like such. Look at that. Lots of good details, lots of good little new windows, little notches here and there to create just that much more detail for our building. So in this point of Mr. Sorbias' video, he starts adding just a lot more windows and a lot more structures. So that's what we're going to be doing for this last little portion. One really cool detail that he adds to the medieval house to make it not so blocky on the sides is balconies. It's very, very simple, and we can easily make them by duplicating our staircase right here. So if you come down to your staircase, we can select this guy, and all of these planks in between. All these planks like this. We're going to Shift D, and using our side view, we can drag this up. I'm going to go ahead and select this window and this window of either side, so this one and this one. just to give it that nice equal look. And I'm going to line this up maybe about right here. And I'm going to go ahead and take these two guys and shift D to duplicate them. We're going to rotate 90 degrees like this. And we are going to, oh my, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, sorry about that. We're going to take these two guys, move them over here, scale them down like this. Maybe move them over like that. Maybe move them in like that. Then we can shift these guys, move them over here. So we have that. What we can do now is we can take our bottom one right here, shift D, move over, and then scale down like that. Shift D, move over like that. So we're creating these planks. You can see the gaps in here. So shift D, move that over to create a third plank, probably like that, or around like this. Good. So we get out of that view. Good. So now we have a really good looking balcony. What else we can do is we can take these three planks, shift D, rotate 90 degrees on our y-axis, set that to 90. We can shrink these down like this, maybe a bit more, like that. And we're going to bring them over here. Now we've got the side area. And then we can easily shift D, move all this over here. Perfect. And then we can do what we did earlier if we want to, where we actually a really useful tool. In you had the ability to like drag and select a bunch of them. That for us is B. If you press B on your keypad and then you drag it like this, you can select every single object for easy use. Probably should have mentioned that earlier for some things we worked on, but it's good to know for future projects. B, drag, you drag and you select everything in it. So what we can do now is we can move this in to where it's sitting inside, maybe drag that up just a bit like that. And then we can shift D this, move it over like that. Perfect. And then what we can do is we can shift D this, move it over to the other side like this. And now we can, make sure that's set to active element or one that allows it to rotate fully like this. We're gonna rotate it 180 degrees. So that way it's for this side. And if we go into this view right here, make sure this is lined up like that. Perfect. Like that, sorry. And then we can shift D, move it over to the other side like that. And then we can select both of these by doing B, select all of that, move them in like that. And there you go. You've got two balconies on either side, spacious room for someone to look outside on their balconies. And we'll add more details and more windows in just a sec. All right, so we've added lots of good details to all the sides of our house, except one side. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna make some really simple copy-paste windows and supports just to give this side some more detail so it doesn't look so flat as compared to everything else. So we're going to take this window, shift D, or any window that you have, that's this one, and we're going to move it over here, rotate 90 degrees, that's way too far, 90, negative 90, there we go. Make sure that it's not the nasty side, not this side. You want the good side to look out. So we're going to move this. That's actually a good distance. We're going to shift D this guy, move him over here, about right there, and take these two, shift D down like that, and we're going to go this way. Using the B that we have, we can select all four of these, move them in together, and make sure that they all look nice together, about right there. Perfect. Then we could take this guy, shift D, rotate 90 degrees, like so. Maybe we can make him a bit thinner, about right there. That looks good. We'll move him up to about right here. And then we are going to extrude or scale like that. Look at that. Some good details. One thing he also does is he takes this, you can shift D, then you can scale this one really, really far down like that. Rotate about, let's go -30, like we did with the others. Move this up about right there. That looks pretty good. We can shift, oops, my bad. We can shift D, this guy. We can rotate him like that to 60, like we did with all the other supports on these sides. And then we can move them over like that. We want to get the precise. We can zoom in. We can move over to about right there. And then we can make these guys move in like that, so they are not overlapping our main guy. And that is how we add some easy details to our side right here. Okay, so another nice detail we're going to do to our medieval building is we're going to add a really, really nice top windows rooms to our roof. Because if you take a look at our roof, it's kind of bland as compared to the rest of our building. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some top pieces. So what we're going to do is with the main body selected in object mode, we're going to go over to our edit mode via tab. We're going to select this one with one of the curved windows, Shift D, and then we're going to move this up here so we can see what we're doing. And then we're going to extrude halfway, about right there, and then extrude again to about right there. And you'll see why we do it like this in a sec. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to Control R down the middle like that. So we have all these sides, and we are going to go into our lines mode, take these and move these down like so, and then maybe bring those up just a bit more like that. And then we're going to take these guys and move these guys up like that. So we're going to reincite what we did a while ago with our active element. So with active element selected, you're going to select, shift select the points mode and double click on this point right here. Or sorry, with these four slices, you're going to double click on this point right here. So that's the active element. You're going to shift D like such, and then you're going to scale out like that to create that nice looking roof. Extrude up, bam. Look at that. Easiest roof of my life. So what we're going to do now is we're going to Control plus both of these like such, and we're going to move it to our liking. I'd say about right there. Looks pretty good, like so. Move it over a little bit like that, and we're going to Shift D, and look at that. You got some really good things. One thing we can do is we select both of these, Control like that, go over to your materials right here, select roof and assign. Look at that. Bunch of good details, very, very simplistic, really, really easy, and it looks like 10 times better rather than staring at the bland roof. And then what we can do is we can go into our object mode, take one of these windows, use a window of your choice. I think Mr. Sorbias uses this window right here on the side, the small window, but I prefer this middle window right here. So I'm going to go ahead and Shift D these, move it up to here, and I'm going to Shift D this, move it over here, and then select both of these, Shift D, lots of Shift D'ing, move over here, rotate 180 degrees, like such, and then move these guys over. Look at that. Easy details to add to your roof, and it looks a lot better than it did 2 minutes ago. All right, so one last really nice little detail that we're going to add to our roof. So we select our, go to object mode, select our roof. If we Control R the sides right here, we can create this really, if we Control R just down the middle like that, perfect. And Control R this side like that. We can select all these lines right here like such, like that, perfect. We're going to move these guys down like this. Now it's going to create a little bit of a curve, and if we Control B, we can actually add some segments, and it creates a very, very nice looking curved roof. Like, just look at the detail from the side. It looks very, very nice. If this is an issue for you, if these start sticking out, no problem. Go ahead and use your face mode. Select all these faces that may or may not have stuck out after creating some curves for your roof. Be sure to select every single one that might be sticking out and just go ahead and drag those down, and it still looks just like it did. And then what we can also do is we can also do it for this one. So if we Control R, do that. Perfect. We can move this guy down like that. Then Control B, and we can do like that. And we got some nice curved roofs for our medieval house. They look very, very good. Very good. So one of the last things that Mr. Sorbias does for his medieval house is he likes to texturize the final part that hasn't been touched a lot. So we've touched the roof, we touched the body, we've added some stuff, but our stone boy down here has not been messed around with for quite some time. So we're going to go ahead and add some nice looking details to what he calls the cellar part of the medieval house. So I'm just spitballing my own way here right now just to show you what you can do. Again, all of these extra pieces, however much you want, is all extra. Like you can create whatever you want for any of these pillars. You can create maybe a spiral staircase if you wanted to. So all these kinds of things are just very. What are you doing right here? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I saw that. I had no clue how that got there. So yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to detail the last, the bottom part right here. He does things like he selects these two guys right here, goes into edit mode, selects the faces, and then drags them. Oops, sorry, and then select face mode. He selects the faces of these two right here, and then drags them down so they're touching the ground like such. And then all these other pillars right here, like the one I just grabbed, he puts into the thing like this. But again, all of this is up to you. You can create so many different designs while I'm just going to be creating these designs while I'm talking, but you can create so many different designs to your choosing. Maybe you can do something really cool like a cross guard right here. Maybe take this guy like this and maybe do that. Maybe make it thinner. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it thin first, then rotate it like that, and then make it bigger like that. So all these are just ideas of what you could do for your extra detail. But it's all up to you. You do what you want to do for some of these details, specifically this bottom part right here. You can create a lot of really good looking details from some of the simplest ideas. Like it looks like a crossbeam, like it's supporting that bottom area. So if we take this, move this back so they're not sitting on top of each other. Maybe move this guy back as well. Looks really, really good. So yeah, so feel free to make whatever kinds of design do you want to for this bottom part. I'm just gonna finish the rest of this part right here. Another really cool thing he does right here is he takes this one, Shift D, and then goes into like the middle right here, Shift D again, right there, Shift D, move that over right here, and then he does like this really cool cross beam thing where they kind of like do like a zigzag downwards to the ground. Actually, if we can make this Shift D, make this thinner and then smaller, probably like that. We can rotate this 90 like that. Move this over like this, and then up, and then Shift D like that. And then we can take all three of these, Shift D, rotate them using individual points like this, and then move them up like that. And you've got some really intricate, maybe if I make these all look better looking instead of like clipping into one another. Like that. Look how good that looks. These actually need to go into the top part right here. So I'm just going to select all these really quick. And again, like I keep saying, all this is your design. You do what you want to do. So we can take all these guys right here, everything that we just created right here, Shift-E, all of this, go back to active element, rotate it 90 degrees, 180 degrees, like that. Move you over here towards being seen. And it's Mr. Tanner. Okay. Do it if you can. Okay, cool. So yeah, so there you go. So all these little details, little extra details. I mean, again, I'm just messing around here because you could do whatever you want to do. And this is the last part. This is the last thing. Like, we're done. This is the entire project. I hope you guys had fun with this as much as I had, because this was very, very fun for me to do. So I hope you guys liked the tutorial. I'm just still adding these last details. Feel free to do what you want to do for the final part. Again, I'm just messing around, adding my details. But I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. I'm sure you guys will do great on this. And I will hope to see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye, guys.